Welcome to NycosRPG. I'm Jonathan Albin, and this is Game Master's Guide. Tonight we're going to be taking a little bit of a detour. We're going to be traveling, at least in our mind's eye, from here to Gencon over the next month and a half or so. And I wanted to really get out to you what it is we're trying to do, a little bit on how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and what we are particularly trying to accomplish. And before we get started, make sure you hit all the buttons down below to let the algorithm know that you're part of our audience, and let's go to it.
Absorbing damage is the name of the game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame, or strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Alrighty, so we're going to be talking tonight about the pathway to Gencon, and we're going to be talking about NycosRPG and where we are going. Now, I realize I am posting this on the Dungeons & Dragons channel, and one of my reasons for doing so is the legacy of this property lays heavily at the feet of Dungeons & Dragons and the many years that I've played. And many of you know that I've been a game master for a considerable amount of time, 50 years in particular, and I've been a storyteller fundamentally for that entire time. And the Kickstarter is the launch of a new mechanism called NycosRPG, and I've struggled for a bit with how we were going to do it, and if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I'm rather smitten by the system. So we're going to talk a little about the system, about the strategy of how we're going to get to Gen Con, and how you can be a part of it. All right, so the tour strategy stems from my experience earlier in my career. As some of you may know, I was the tournament liaison for Konami for a bunch of years and the marketing director for GAMA, the Game Manufacturers Association, for several years as well. And both of those led me to a very tight relationship with the game store owners in this country. And one of my key strategies with the NycosRPG launch is that I did not want this to be a traditional Kickstarter that focused on a consumer base, drove excitement to the players, and invited everybody to order the product fundamentally by getting the perk versions through the Kickstarter. But more importantly, I wanted it to be an introduction to that process, but I wanted to do so at the game stores. And so because the game stores are so important to the very process of continuing and ongoing sales, I'm creating this property fundamentally to assist game store owners in getting the message about role play out. Those of you that are familiar with NycosRPG realize that it is a fast system in terms of how long it takes to learn how to play. It's quick. You can get to playing within minutes of learning the mechanisms, and it is so open-ended that you can continue playing story after story, week after week in a campaign, or you can shift and change and adapt which stories you want to tell on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. But the reason why the strategy in particular is the tour concept is that I want to be present with you when you're learning the game. It's an exciting property, and I want to introduce it to as many people as possible. Those of you that have heard me speak, I've talked about all the different genres and types of games that I have run in the past, and the Nykos mechanism is the means of doing that. So the strategy is to travel to 6, 8, maybe 10 game stores in particular as featured stores on this tour, and I will bring property with me for that particular location to have property in their hands on that day, and therefore be fundamentally the release. Now, the concept is to do an actual release date at Gen Con, the first day of Gen Con, but the tour spots will be given the benefit of being able to get to the product early, get to actually have some people playing it, and start the process 2 or 3, maybe even 4 days before the actual Gen Con event. So it's going to be a rather open process, and we're going to be investigating it and we're learning as we go. As you probably don't know, I have attempted the tours on 2 different occasions, shortly after I left Konami and again about a year and a half later. And the rest of the story is that my first tour was cut short after the 4th stop in the tour because my mother passed away. And then a year and a half, 2 years later, as I was starting the second tour, my dad fell ill, and I had to stop that tour as well. And so both tours were cut short. And while some might look at that and say, well, it's a portent, you shouldn't get involved with these tours. Well, the first thing saying is rather macabre, I suppose, but I have, my family has all passed away. Both of my sisters, who were younger than me, have passed on, as well as my parents. And so, in theory, at least the tour won't have anything stopping me from making it all the way to Gencon this time. The further portion of the strategies, I will be bringing the property with me to those stores, and people will be able to get sneak peek and access to the property a little early. Now, as many of you know, I do run games here in the local area at Board Games Paradise in Redlands, California, as well as a couple of home games. And all of them, of course, are utilizing the mechanism. So the proof of life has already happened. As a matter of fact, all 6 of the system books, as well as the master book, are already in print. So this is just a matter of getting it rolled out. And so the strategy is to visit these locations, bring the properties, play the game, and introduce the property to the community through the game stores to promote the idea of them carrying the game first. Now, this is my first time doing this, and it may actually be the first time in probably a couple of decades that anybody's attempted to do it from this end. But I've always been a hands-on kind of person, and I prefer to work with those stores that would like to be a part of this. So I'm preloading, if you will. The Kickstarter will be launching in the next coming weeks, and once it does, then it will run for a short period of time, and it will all be concluded before the date of Gencon. Now the question would be the reason, and the reason is clear. The role-playing environment is and has been pretty stable and growing over the last few years. There have been some hitches, there's some challenges because humans are involved. But the reason in particular that I wanted to bring the property through the Road to Gencon campaign is that I wanted sort of for the game to reflect my history as well. Those of you that don't know this about me, I moved considerably when I was younger. I went to, I moved 40 times before I was 18. I went to 22 grade schools and 6 high schools across 11 states. Got around quite a bit. But I got to play a lot of games and teach a lot of people how to play, and so I'm kind of replicating that. I want to introduce people to the game as I come across the country and provide them with a play mechanism that will unleash them from the bounds that they've been limited to. This may or may not work as successfully as I would like. This is an experiment. It is an adventure, and I'm inviting you all to be a part of it and to join with me on getting the word out to other people about this. So the tour will start roughly 3 or 4 days before the date of Gencon and will culminate with events at the Gencon event throughout the 3 days and 4 days of Gencon. And they will be the best 4 days of gaming for 2025. Of that, I have no doubt. And we will play some demos. We'll do some role-play roulette. We'll introduce the property. We'll make the property available for sale. I'm going to be bringing the inventory with me as well to actually get it into the hands of consumers at Gencon. And therefore, throughout this process, we're going to do everything we can to expand the marketplace. So I encourage you to share this video with others. And if you are affiliated with or know a game store owner, put this video in their hands or at least link it to them so that they can be aware of the tour and become a part of it if they would like. More information, of course, will come when the Kickstarter launches in about a week or so. So, some people will ask, I've been playing role play games for 50 years. Why did I decide to publish, and why now? And the fundamental reasons for the publication of the NycosRPG system is simply that my players have found it so useful and effective that they have encouraged me to do so. I will be putting up videos from my players. As a matter of fact, I've already started to give some short videos of my players explaining how long they've been playing and what they find enjoyable about the system. But I'll be adding more of that kind of information going forward. But my particular reason for publishing is so that you as a player, you as a game master, will have the tools to build the stories that you want to tell in the way you want to tell them, and not be bound to the barriers and limitations of the older systems that are out there. So when we talk about role-playing, we can look at it from a lot of different ways. As we have discussed in earlier videos, people play role-play games for a lot of different reasons, and everybody that plays has their own cause. But the challenge is that there has not been a real solid means by which you could tell a story that is in a, say, Wild West setting and turn around the next day and tell another story in a post-apocalyptic realm without having to completely change rules, change concepts, and develop an entire new concept, because the games are usually so bound to stories that you have to fundamentally learn the story before you can play. Well, in this case, the NycosRPG mechanism is actually built to allow you to change systems without having to change games without having to change systems. And yes, there are other properties that have done this in the past, or at least provided the opportunities, but they also are entrenched with the lore mechanisms and the availability that they became rather limited in scope. I think you'll find that the Nykos mechanism will be more suitable to the systems that you already play, regardless of what they are. And I encourage you to find out more information. And again, there'll be more information about that starting next week with the Kickstarter. So the state of roleplay is wide open. The opportunities for new environments are wide open. And this mechanism is a way to do that. I'm going to be bringing the games to your local area, moving east from California all the way to Indianapolis. So if you want to know more about that, post your comments down below. Let me know what part of the country you're in and which stores are near you, and I'll do what I can to engage with those stores in particular. I'd love to be able to get to meet you all and bring the games directly to your table so you can see how useful they really are. Now, this is all part of also a larger campaign that I'm working on called Imagination Launchpad, where we actually develop a broader understanding of what it is to be playful and bring people who are, for example, I've taken board games into boardrooms and worked with the CEOs and leaders of organizations to establish play groups, because interaction of a social nature in a positive format is so rare to find that the reality is that we need to get more people playing in order for there to be more people to play with. The very concepts of the Imagination Launchpad can change the way you look at your work and the occupation that you currently have, and help you to move into a more connected environment than you have ever experienced before. When it comes down to why, it really comes down to this statement. If it's to be, it's up to me. There's not another person that would bring the game directly to your games community, and so I'm endeavoring to do so. So I will be doing additional updates about once a week on the campaign, let you know how we're going. Of course, those who are part of the program will be able to watch it develop on a day-by-day basis, because we'll be making changes and adaptations and improving the lot of the campaign as we go. It really does focus on game stores, however, so if you are a game store owner and are wanting to be a part of this much larger campaign, feel free to reach out through this website, or you can also reach out to me at my email address, which is also linked. So I will also list it below in the comments. Some people might ask me why Gencon. Well, Gencon being a beacon, if you will, for games of all sorts, card games, board games, miniatures games, role-play games, etc., and also as a pop culture location, is absolutely essential to have as a beacon, as a lighthouse, if you were, that will help us to bring all of the friendly local area game stores or flagships together under one banner and playing together. So I hope to hear from you soon, and I will be bringing more information to you over the next few weeks. As I misquote Shakespeare all the time, all the world's a stage, but we are all but players. Yes, we're all players, but we're players of the role-play game of life, and I want to help you make your route and the games that you play the best they can be, and I hope to see you on the road to Gencon. I'm Jonathan Albin. This has been NycosRPG, and I hope to see you soon. By the way,